Hi everyone, I'm Vicki Stark, the author of Runaway Husbands, and tonight is my Wednesday night live Q&A. So we have a really interesting topic, which is covert narcissism, and I know I've touched on it before, but I wanted to explore it some more because we actually have two questions about that. And then we'll sort of segue later on at the end of this talk to focus on how the different things that you can do, the self-care you need to do in order to recover more quickly from wife abandonment syndrome. So the first question tonight comes from Patty, who says, I'm not sure my husband was a covert narcissist initially. Is it something that can develop over the years? Our last year together, I can see the similarities before him leaving, but not continually over our 37 years together. And adding on to that, Leonie says, I'm questioning this as well. My runaway husband started showing narcissistic behavior a couple of weeks after he dumped me, but not once had I seen any kind of narcissistic tendencies, covert or otherwise, during our entire marriage. Not a single moment gave me an uneasy feeling or made that alarm bell go off. Even after reconstructing all the years we've been together, trying to find some kind of clue this was going to happen, I have not been able to pinpoint any behavior that would be classified as narcissistic. So I just wanted to discuss a little bit, to define covert narcissism. And there's been a lot of talk about it. There's a lot being written about it. And it feels as though it's an idea that's developing. It hasn't quite been concretely defined. But it's more something that research is being done about and people are exploring. And I think it's tremendously interesting. The idea behind covert narcissism is that the person has a fragile ego, a fragile sense of self, and needs others to boost him up so that he can feel good about himself. So he seeks out people who are very giving, who are very nurturing, who are caretaking, so that he can be the primary one, and that his needs take precedence. And the partner's job is to boost him up and to give him the admiration that he craves. They may behave like the pillar of the community, but not because they genuinely care about others, but just so that others will admire them. And in defining classically covert narcissism, often I think in our community, in the Runaway Husbands community, there's the question, was he a narcissist? Did he have narcissistic tendencies? Could you see them while you were together in all those years? Or was it only after he left that sort of that explosion of narcissistic tendencies started to become evident? So some of the definitions that are used to describe this covert narcissism and what we're looking for to see if that existed before your husband left, it would be an exaggerated sense of his importance, that he craved admiration, that he lacked empathy for other people, and I think sometimes it's other people outside the family, although he seems to have empathy for people in the family, that he behaved in a passive-aggressive kind of way to make you feel bad, would do sort of little digs that would make you feel bad, but that were not overtly aggressive, that he's highly sensitive, he'd get his feelings hurt, and then he'd sort of feel like he was the victim and that people are picking on him. He did nice things, but to be noticed, not because he genuinely wanted to help somebody. That he gaslighted you and could lie to your face and make you question, wait a minute, did he really say that? He tells me now he never said that. And so you question yourself. And did he show arrogance? So I just today sent out a questionnaire to the Runaway Husbands community, and I asked the women to fill out this little questionnaire and let me know whether they saw their husband as having these traits before he left. This is before you know that there's any problem. And the things that I just read to you are the line items where there was a very strong correlation between these traits of covert narcissism and what the women who responded to the questionnaire had lived with their husbands. So it looks as though in our community that the presence of covert narcissism so far, a couple hundred people responded, so it's not a bad sample. So far, it looks as though we might be able to say that covert narcissism is one of the criteria or one of the descriptive factors in many or some women's husbands who left. We often see after he leaves that he behaves in the classic covert narcissistic way that's described in the literature. That coldness, that turning on you, that not seeming to care, maybe even getting pleasure in your misery. It doesn't matter how much you're crying or pleading and he's not responding to you. That part we see. But I think in a large number of women, they also see the covert narcissistic profile in their husbands before he left and before he had indicated there was a problem. Now, for Patty and for Leonie, they're saying, I didn't see any of that. And for Vicky, when I look back at my relationship with my ex-husband, I didn't see him having that sense of craving admiration or exaggerated sense of his importance, or that he showed arrogance, maybe a little bit, but really it didn't jump out at me. And it doesn't jump out at Patty and Leonie. And Patty's saying, is it possible that covert narcissism develops over time? I didn't know the answer to that question. It's really interesting. So that the conundrum for me is it possible that somebody could be defined as covert narcissistic even though those traits are very underexpressed in the course of a marriage, but only come out quite strongly once the marriage is over and he has nothing to lose? So I'm really interested in this topic. I'm doing more research on it. But I wanted to put it out there, and I'm really interested in hearing your comments to see how you relate to this issue. Now, the second half of today, we're going to be discussing two questions. One is from Lainey, and she said, what's the fastest way to get over them? And then the next is from Lisa, what's the best self-care you would advise? So we're going to put them together and say, what kind of self-care do you need to do so you can get over your husband who left? And I love the questions. And really very often, the most important thing is just the passage of time. Time heals all wounds. Not necessarily true, I don't think, but time does a good job in healing a certain percentage of the wounds. But the other part are things that you have to do. And they're really very simple. And it's really to try to get yourself to stay connected to people, and even in this COVID environment, to be in touch with people, to have Zoom conversations with your friends, to talk to friends on the phone, to stay in contact with your relatives, to not isolate, to try to get outdoors in nature. And take care of yourself, to do the things that you know are healthy for you, to breathe the fresh air, to try to find a park or a tree, or take a walk in the woods if you live somewhere or you live by the beach, that you're going to go out, you're going to let Mother Nature heal you. You're going to try to move and get some exercise. When you're feeling really blue, the best thing to do is just to walk. If you have a dog, it's even better. But just to walk, just to get out and move, and I guarantee you will feel better after you've taken even a 10 or 15-minute walk. It's phenomenally therapeutic. And to fight your own negativity. You are going to have thoughts that are negative and that aren't true. Things like, nobody will ever want me, my life is over, I'll never be happy again. These are beliefs. They're not facts. And I can guarantee you, if you can fight those beliefs and question yourself, Is what I'm saying a belief or is it a fact? When you say, I'll never be happy again, that's a belief. It's not necessarily a fact. I've seen hundreds, thousands maybe, of women who were so distraught when their husband left. And then a year or 2 or 3 years later, I hear from them and they say, wow, I have recovered and good things are happening and I'm glad at where my life is right now. So you have to challenge that awfulizing in your head that makes you feel as though everything is bad. And you have to say to yourself, I'm only going to take those little baby steps of doing positive things. And if I continue on that path of taking those baby steps, of getting fresh air, of exercising, of talking to people who are supportive to you, of listening to podcasts, maybe even listening to comedy albums or stand-up comedians or anything that might lift your spirits a little bit. You keep doing that and you're going to come through this. So that's us for tonight. I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.